My name is Nav and I am an IELTS trainer, and if you have got a band 7 or higher on the other modules but are stuck at a 6.5 on writing, this video is for you. But also if you're looking for some tricks and tips and some shortcuts to a band 7 or higher on writing, you can stop watching right this second because they simply do not exist. See, you have to understand, you cannot trick the examiner into giving you a higher band score. Now, there certainly are some tricks that you may follow, some writing templates that you can use. I use them all the time for my students, but that can only get you as far as a 5.5 or a 6 at best. But that is not our goal, is it? So let's talk about the things that we can do and also things that we should avoid in order to get a band 7, 8, or 9 on writing. Step number 1, understand how your writing task is marked. Now this one's a no-brainer. If I want to improve my score on writing, I first need to know how my writing task is scored. Our writing task is marked on 4 parameters. If you look at the bottom of your writing answer sheet, you will find 4 boxes for these 4 criteria. We are marked individually on these 4, and then an average is calculated. TR stands for task response. CC is coherence and cohesion. LR stands for lexical resource, in simple words, vocabulary. And GRA stands for grammatical range and accuracy. We're first marked on a scale of 0 to 9 band individually for these 4 parameters, and then an average is calculated, which is our overall writing score. Fun fact, while our overall IELTS score is rounded up, our writing score is actually rounded down. Here's an example to explain what I just said. Say I got a band 7 on listening, band 7 on reading, 7 again on writing, and a 6 on speaking. What do you think my overall IELTS score will be? That's right, it will be a 7. But now let's talk about the reading module. The writing module. Say I got a band 7 on task response, 7 again on coherence and cohesion, 7 again on lexical resource, a 6 on grammatical range and accuracy. What do you think my writing score will be? Well, if you guessed a 7, I'm afraid you're wrong. My overall writing score will be a 6.5. I know. Life is not fair, my friend. Now, this is what I meant when I said the writing score is actually rounded down as opposed to our overall writing, IELTS score, which is rounded up. This could be another reason why so many students are stuck at a band 6.5 in writing. So we now know that each of these criteria contributes 25% to our overall writing score, which means it is very important to work equally hard for all 4 of them. This brings us to step number 2, have a thorough read of your writing band descriptors. Writing band descriptors is the chart that examiners across the world follow to mark our writing task. Here's what our band descriptor looks like, this chart right here. As you can see, there are 4 columns for each of the criteria, starting with the task response. Then we have coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, and grammatical range and accuracy. This row here is for band 9, and then band 8, band 7, all the way till band 0. Now, your writing score depends on this chart and this chart alone. Doesn't matter if you're taking your test in Chandigarh or in Ludhiana. Doesn't matter if you're taking a test in India or in Canada. And it certainly doesn't matter if you're taking your test with British Council or IDP. examiners everywhere are looking at the same chart when they are grading our writing answer sheets. Yeah. So next time you find yourself wasting your time Googling information like, do I take my IELTS with the British Council or IDP? Or do I register for IELTS on planet Earth or on Mars? Doesn't matter. Even the aliens use this exact parent descriptors. This reminds me, back home in Chandigarh, I would often get students tell me rather, that the examiners in Chandigarh, they are strict when it comes to marking the writing answer sheets as compared to the ones in Moga or maybe Ludhiana or Patiala. No, they're not. That is simply not true. They are all looking at the exact same chart when marking or writing answer sheets. So yeah, if we spend half the energy and effort maybe going through the band descriptors and understanding what are the areas that, what are the things that the examiner is looking for when he or she marks a writing task, that is more likely to help us get a higher band score. Yeah, than getting bogged down by all of those conspiracy theories. Let us now go over these 4 criteria one by one. I would also like to mention this real quick. We will only briefly touch on these criteria in this video. The second part of the video will discuss these in more detail. Okay, so let's start with TR, that is task response. This is where the examiner will see how well did we understand the essay prompt and whether we addressed all parts of the question. Now, 3 major requirements to get a good score on task response are: firstly, we need to address all parts of the questions. For example, if the question tells us to discuss both views and then give our opinion, don't start by mentioning your opinion and then only elaborating your own opinion throughout the essay. The essay requires us to first discuss both sides of the prompt and then give our opinion. So we should very clearly, in 2 separate paragraphs, discuss both of the views before we give our opinion. Second, present clear position throughout the essay. For example, my essay question says, some people believe that moral values should be taught by parents at home rather than the teachers at school. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Now, let us say I start my essay by stating my opinion, where I say I completely agree with the topic. And then I discuss the ideas in favor of my opinion. I also give relevant examples to support my view. Sorry. But then I conclude the essay by writing something like, to conclude, in my opinion, moral education should be a shared responsibility for both the parents at home as well as the teachers at school. Now, what is wrong with that conclusion? I did not keep my view consistent. I did not completely agree with the topic in conclusion. Well, I started by saying that I completely agree with the topic, but in conclusion, I mentioned that I only partially agree with it. This is where I lose marks in task response again. Lastly, to get a good score on task response, we need to fully extend our ideas and support our ideas. In the second part of the video, we will see how to address all parts of the question and also how do we extend our ideas. We will now talk about the second criterion, which is coherence and cohesion. This is where the examiner will see how well organized our task is and how easy to follow it is. Remember, every time an examiner is having to go back and reread our sentence, trying to figure out what we're trying to say, that is a sign of weak writing. Our ideas should be easy to follow. They should be coherent. So the 3 things that will help us get a good score on coherence and cohesion are: The information should be logically organized. That is, our essay should not be written in the form of one massive paragraph. It should be split into different paragraphs, ideally starting with an introduction and ending with a concluding paragraph. And then we should have at least 2 body paragraphs. And then there should be a clear progression using cohesive devices. That is, not only between the paragraphs, but also within the paragraphs, our ideas should be properly linked. Our ideas should not be randomly scattered all over the place. So we are going to use cohesive devices like, firstly, apart from this, in my opinion, on the other hand, to conclude, we will use these words and phrases, or cohesive devices as we may call them, to organize a task. And then our paragraph should also, each of the paragraphs in our essay should have a clear topic sentence. We will discuss this in more detail in the second part of the video. We then have lexical resource, in other words, vocabulary. Now, obviously, IELTS is a test of language, so we will be marked on our vocabulary skills. But we need to remember, good vocabulary skills do not necessarily mean being able to use these super fancy sounding words, which is what most students try to do. Now, while it is advisable to try and use some less common vocabulary, but not at the cost of accuracy, that is, oftentimes, in order to score well on lexical resource, students try and use some less common words, even if they do not belong in that context, even if they are not needed in that discussion. They try to write sentences just to be able to use those words that they know, when really it should be the opposite. We should use words according to the sentences that we are writing in our essay. That is, we should try and use some topic-specific vocabulary. We should use words that will fit right in the ideas that we're trying to communicate in our essay. These do not have to be something very ornamental. For example, if I have an essay about education, now topic-specific vocabulary means words like tuition, tertiary education, distance education, language of instruction, online classes, curriculum. This is what the examiner means when they say that they are looking for some topic-specific vocabulary on a writing task. Secondly, I see that students try to avoid repetition, which is, well, not a mistake per se, but trying to avoid repetition at all costs may not be a wise thing to do, because there we may end up using incorrect words. Remember, you never lose marks for repeating a word, but you may lose marks for incorrect word usage. For example, very commonly students end up using wrong words trying to paraphrase the essay prompt. Now, you absolutely have to paraphrase the essay prompt. You most definitely should not copy the prompt word for word from the question paper, but be very careful when you're paraphrasing the prompt, because just trying to avoid repeating the exact same words, just trying to change the language of the question. Don't end up changing the meaning of the question, because now not only do you lose marks for lexical resource, but also for task response, where the examiner will see how well did you understand your essay question. For example, if my essay prompt says, today, a lot of parents buy a large number of toys for their children. In your opinion, does this have more advantages or disadvantages for children? Now, when I try and when I write the introduction for my essay, now instead of writing today, I may write nowadays, and then instead of saying parents buy too many toys for their children, if I write something like parents or guardians buy too many toys for the infants, I am using these words incorrectly, so I'm probably gonna lose marks for incorrect word choice because parents do not necessarily mean guardians, just as toddlers and infants do not necessarily mean children. Well, all toddlers and infants are children, but not all children are infants and toddlers. So this is what I meant. Don't try too hard. Sometimes it's absolutely okay to repeat the word. Now, my essay is about children and toys and parents. So it is but natural that I will repeat these words throughout my essay. So remember, don't force any words in your essay. Use a word if you are 100% sure the word does belong in that context. If you're only 98% sure, that is not enough. Repeat the word instead. In the second part of the video, we will see how to use some topic-specific vocabulary and also how to paraphrase the prompt so as to avoid repetition of the words from the prompt, but at the same time, not changing the meaning of the question. That brings us to the last parameter of our writing task, which is grammatical range and accuracy. This is where the examiner will see whether we can write a wide range of sentence structures, that is both simple and complex. It is also very important to make these sentences accurately. Now, a lot of students think that a complex sentence means a very complicated sentence. That is not necessarily true. A complex sentence can be something as simple as, I, however, disagree on this opinion. So these are the 4 parameters on which our writing task is marked. And for the next step, before we move on to the second part of the video, I would like you to do a little self-assessment. Write an essay, any essay really, preferably a topic that you would find challenging, and mark your essay without looking at the band score descriptors. Once you've done that, remark your essay against the band descriptors. You can download the band descriptors from the link posted below. Now compare your marking without and with the band descriptors. That should tell you what are the areas that you need to put in more work on. And that way you can pay more attention to that section of the video, the second part of the video, where I will be discussing all 4 parameters in more detail. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you again soon.